What's going on, everyone, and welcome back. So, last episode we did drag and drop, and we got a couple things working fairly decent, but we didn't get all of it working like how it should, and that's what we're gonna do in this episode, along with just trying to get done as much as we can kind of in one episode. Uh, so whenever I loaded this up, and I've noticed this in the past as well, I think I mentioned it last episode, but the destroy method was kind of janky. It wasn't. I could delete stuff in the hierarchy, and it would delete it off of the hierarchy, but it wouldn't delete it in the scene window. And the reason was because we weren't actually removing it, or we weren't actually destroying it. So, in your version, under game object, under destroy, it'll say, it'll have this loop, and then right here it'll say like children dot, or it'll say like instances dot remove children dot get I believe. And instead you want to replace it with children.geti.destroy. That way it calls destroy on itself, or on its children, and then immediately afterwards just call instances.remove this. And it seems like it works good. The only issue with this method is that well, I'll show you it working now. So if I take this and if I delete it, now it deletes it from over here and it deletes it out of the hierarchy. But let me delete this one. Alright, so there's a sprite renderer on here and a sprite renderer on here. If I delete this one, it'll delete that, and then if I click scene and hit delete, it'll delete that one. So then there'll be no sprite renders in the scene. But if I just delete the parent, as you can see, Brick, which was that child, is still in the scene. It's not in the hierarchy anymore, but it's still in the scene. And that's what we're left with currently at the moment. So we'll figure that out later. Maybe we'll come across this episode. I don't know, but we'll see how all that's gonna play out. But at least it's deleting it from the scene and from the hierarchy if we delete it without a parent, or without deleting the parent. So if you click on a child and hit delete, it works fine. But if you click on the parent and delete, it won't delete the children. Yeah, just not sure why that is. Alright, so now to move on to what we're actually doing in this episode. So one thing that I want is, currently we cannot drop in a game object in the hierarchy to like parent it around, and that's what we're going to do right here. So it's basically exactly like how we do sprite. Say else if dragged is an instance of game object. So if it's an instance of game object, we want to do things a little bit differently. What we want to do is, for one, let's cache it. So game object g equals, don't want a new game object, so game object dragged. So we're basically going to take the object and just turn it into a game object. That way we can compare it and whatnot. And later on, this will make more sense whenever we're dragging. Oh God, what are those things called? Prefabs. Whenever we're dragging prefabs from the project window and into the hierarchy. Now we haven't got to prefabs yet, but we will. So let's go ahead and cache that. For later use. So right here we could say if G equals parent. So if let's say I click this and I drag it out, but then I come back and then I release it on to itself, or let's say I just, right now we're dragging regardless of if it's just a click or not, which we will fix that later on too. We'll add a timer or like a move thing, so it'll only start dragging if we click and then move while we're holding it down. We just haven't done that because, well, quite frankly, it works just fine for the moment. But so if we drop it on itself, we don't want to try to parent it onto itself, because yeah, then it's just going to crash. So we're going to return 1 if the parent is itself. If not, then we're just going to call g.parent parent. And then don't forget to return out of it. So return 1, because we did drop. Okay. So if we go over here, okay, so now if I click this and I'm dragging it, put it over top of brick, and I release, it parents it. If I want it unparented, I just drag it out here in the open and release, and then it's unparented. So if I click and release it on itself, then it doesn't try to parent it onto itself. So yeah, that works. That works perfectly. All right, so another thing I want to do is, let's see here. Right here, I want to consolidate these render calls. And I mentioned that slightly in the last episode as well, that I wanted to go ahead and do that. So let's do public void. No, I don't want it public. I want it private. Private void render asset type. Sure, why not? Okay. So I may just throw in some variables. Just to get us by, and then later do some editing. Let's go just like that for now. We need to, I'll just grab any of these because any of them will work. Copy, and I'll just paste it in there for now. Selected. Where is selected? It's selected out right here. That equals editor.getSelected. I don't want to have to call that every time though. Okay, I'm going to create a variable right here. Just for a second, and I'll scoot it up here in a minute. Private engine.object selected. And say selected equals editor.setSelected or getSelected, whatever. Alright, I'll drag that up after I'm done. So now I have selected. So now I need fonts.getI.equals_selected. I can actually do an object. So engine.object asset. So then I could just say asset.equals asset.name asset.name down here. Asset.clone. Let's do asset object. Where is my where are you? Logic behavior. Oh no, that wasn't it. Need font. Right? So each object is going to implement clonable, and I'm just copying this. And then right here, let's copy that and paste, save it. And then asset and asset. Asset. All right, there we go. That covers the names and whatnot. The name and the clones. We need a rectangle as well, a drawing rectangle. So rect R. Wait, why is this asset.clone? Why is that not doing anything? Surround with try catch. Throws declaration. Forgot about that. We need to check to make sure that it is down. Correct. Or if r dot contains. Yeah, right here. Let's do byte contains mouse equals 0. If it's in here, then contains mouse equals 1. And then we can pass in the drawing rectangle right here. So we can just say rect r r to r. I need a byte up here. Byte contains mouse. Why did I need it? I just don't understand. For some reason, I needed this variable. I needed this for something. Oh, that's right. Right here. This is what I needed it for. Gotcha. Little turd can't hide from me. Alright, right here. If GUI.check drag 1 and contains mouse equals 1. Editor dot set draggable object asset. Okay, now we got that. Now it seems like it's done, but not quite. We have this. We have this. So we need a rect r asset. I'll put contains mouse at the end. Let's do string folder, string ext for extension. it's going to be editor.working directory plus folder plus asset.name plus ext. All right, and let's do this with only one asset for the moment, just to make sure that we get it correct. All right, so I'm going to do it with fonts, just to make sure that it's correct. So it's going to loop through them, and then after the loop, we're going to say render asset type, right? Render asset type needs a rect that it's going to be rendering at. And it needs the object. So fonts.get I. And then folder extension contains mouse. So the folder is font slash dot ttf and contains mouse. All right, so that should be it. Now, what? Oh, it's gonna whine, isn't it? We should just be able to get rid of these. I don't think I have to implement clonable anymore, since we're doing it on the object. Texture does not implement clonable anymore, and don't need that. GY skin, same thing. Clonable. Sprite, and then this one should be the last one. All right, get rid of all this crap. Material, texture, font. There. You gonna whine at me again? Okay. What did I do? Font. Awesome. There we go. Material still can't do it because we didn't add it. We could do sprites just because, well, we did that last week. Textures we can't drag. Scenes, obviously there's nothing even in there. Same thing with scripts. Skins, okay. So yeah, that worked out awesome. So we can actually get rid of all this crap now. Yay. There, copy that. Paste it there. It's material, so let's go materials dot material, right? Materials dot, okay, dot material. And materials dot get I. All right, so that's that. Get rid of that. And do the same thing here. Shaders dot get I. It's in the shaders folder. And extension is dot shader. All right, and that's for shader. Skins. Skins dot get I. Wait. Oh, lowercase. This is capital. Dot skin. This will help us out later when we're adding new asset types and stuff as well. Be a lot less stuff we actually have to write. Sprites dot get I. It's in the sprites folder, and the extension is dot sprite. And we can get rid of all that. Because the dragging portion is in there as well. Textures. 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 Not PNG, right? Oh no. Just pass in an empty string. That should work. All right, awesome. Yeah, it's a lot smaller now. What is this stupidness? It must have been something I was doing before, because that doesn't make no damn sense. Alright, yeah, that makes it a lot smaller. So anytime we add a new asset type, for instance, whenever we do scenes and scripts and stuff like that, it'll just be a little amount of code versus a bunch, and then we just pass in whatever. That'll make it easier. So let's see. Begin. Choose your mic. Okay. Fonts I can drag. Material I can drag. Shaders I can drag. I can drag scans. I can drag sprites, textures, and there's nothing in scenes or scripts. Okay, awesome. So that allows us to drag any of those. I know I added. Did I add it? Oh, no, I didn't even save the scene. Okay. There was something that I was going to do as well. And I had it on a sticky note. And I think I threw it away. So, yeah, it's not even helpful. Oh, yeah. I got it. Should I make it under game object or object? Okay, so one thing that I do know that I need to add is instance IDs. We currently do not have an instance ID set up for anything, really. So what an instance ID is it like my scene, how I have multiple bricks in the scene and they're named the same thing. So if you go like how we're loading our scenes, we call gameObject.find, and then it would be like a brick. And then it would add all the stuff or all the scripts that need to be attached to it, and then it adds the variables. Oh, that's another thing we need to do. Let me add a comment. Variables need to be after object creation and behavior creation. All right, so what this means is variables need a second loop. So the first loop, whenever we create the scene, we need to create all the objects in the scene, attach all the behaviors, and then we have to have a second loop underneath that. So it's going to be 2 loops now instead of just 1. So we're going to do all the variables after all the behaviors have already been created. That way, we're not trying to assign a variable to, let's say, a game object or something that has not been created yet, or referencing a behavior that has not been created and or attached to a game object yet. And that's the reason why we need to do that. Okay, so sorry, that just came to mind. But for whenever we load a scene, we need to know exactly what variables or whatever game objects are assigned to a variable. Because currently right now, like I said, we use the find method. So all it's going to do is it's going to find any game object with that name and then attach it as the variable. Well, that's not what we want to do, because if we have hundreds of objects that could be brick, so it could be anything. It'll just pop up with the very first thing that it finds. And that's retarded. We should not do that, especially if you have multiple players in the scene. And, you know, depending on how it saves, you might be loading the scene playing as a blue player, and then the next scene loading it as a green player, which is like at the end of the list or whatever, because currently right now our scenes like flip-flop as well. Or let's say you attach a green and it's actually getting you a blue whenever the scene is actually loaded or whatever. So yeah, there's stuff like that. So we need instance IDs. That way every object has its own instance identification. That way we get the correct game object. So we can actually do a get method that gets an object based off of its ID and not its name. Yeah. Okay. So whenever we create a game object, God, you know what? I'm actually going to have to do some thinking before I get to that. Just to make sure that it's done properly. Wait, when did I add that? ID equals UUID dot random UUID. Did we do that whenever we created the game object class? Huh. I had no idea that we did that. I wonder if that one's just completely random or... We'll need to create a method to actually... Right there is returning the ID. Okay. Let's do core. I can actually get rid of a lot of this stuff. We don't need any of this stuff anymore. So I'm going to say if I press the G key, then we're going to say list of game object goes equals game object dot instances, say for int I equals 0, I is lower than goes dot size I plus plus. And you guys don't have to write this. This is just a test just to print out the identifications. Let's say system.out.println goes.get I.name. Wait. Sorry. ID. That way we can check these IDs. We don't have very many game objects in the scene, but I could do a massive test later. G. Oh yeah, definitely. Okay. Okay, I gotcha. That's why, yeah. Because I'm thinking that it's not 100% accurate, but it's so big that, or not, I don't mean 100% accurate, but I mean 100% random. But it's so big that the likeliness of coming across the same number twice is just very slim. And I think that's why we added it. I guess whenever we made the game object class, and I did not realize it. Okay. Okay. Awesome. Game object scale. Whenever we load the scene, do we add it to the hierarchy or not? I believe we pass it in by name. Do public game object string name string ID. Say ID this dot ID equals ID. Say name instances dot add this and parent master. There. Later on we'll have a constructor that has like all the transformations and stuff in it too, just so that we're not like doing this and then setting the parent and then blah 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 blah. We can actually do it all at once. All right. Okay, so now we have a way to import something that already has an ID. Let's see here. Let's see what our scene looks like. I can't remember. It's been a little bit. Okay, G name equals brick. Here's our position. There's our scale. There's our rotation. At the end of here, we need to add an identification number. Not going to do it yet, but that is something we need to do. Just because we would have to do saving and loading. But something we can do at the moment is actually, you know what? Let's do this. Where is the, yeah, just completely get rid of that constructor and public final string ID, and right here let's do a void, not a public, not a private. It has to be something inside of the engine class or engine package. So void ID string value, say ID equals value. And I only say that because I just did a little bit of thinking. And if we have an ID in the constructor, then we don't want some freaking ding dong to get the ID of an object and store it somewhere and then like try to set the game object to a specific ID and then that ID already be matching to somebody else, because that would be freaking ignorant. And yeah, we would have multiple game objects in the scene. It would screw up their project, and we don't want none of that, because people just do ding dong stuff like that. I'm not saying you, but somebody who uses your engine is gonna do something ding dong. Okay. So there's that. So there's an ID getter and setter. And of course we want the final because we don't want to change it after it's already set. Find. Let's do. Yeah. Yeah, we'll just copy this. Copy. Paste. Find object by ID. FG dot ID. FG dot ID dot equals S, then return G. Okay, there we go. So now we have a way to actually loop through those and find a game object that has a specific ID. Now I don't know exactly if I want the ID to be in game object alone, or if I want everything that uses the object class to have a specific ID there. That is something that I have no idea about yet. But we can worry about that later. All right, so I'm 48 minutes in. I know I did most of it talking or just trying to figure out crap. But we have our drag and drop system basically done. I mean, outside of, you know, some little petty stuff. You know what? Let's just test this out, because that's what I like to do. Public game object G. Public, not public. Public shader S. Public font F. Public texture T. Public GUI skin GS. I know I'm missing some kind of type. Font material, that's what it is. Public material M. Shader, skin, sprites, textures. Public sprite S. P. Oh God, we really need to. We really need to get on top of this this crap, so we don't have to do this manually all the time. Engine dot. This is GUI. GUI dot font. So GUI dot skin. GUI dot sprite. Okay, sprite skin font. Sprite skin font. Texture. Guess there's texture. So I need one more. I need material. All right. We're just gonna test out the object fields to make sure that they're all accepting. Brick. I think I added this onto play. All right, so there's our object fields. Let's get to dragon. Font. It's under F. Pretty sure that set it. I think. Skins. GUI skins. What is what are we doing under the GUI for that? I don't remember what we put. GUI dot object field right here. Return equals GUI dot text field R name ret padding. We draw that in the inspector. I guess I don't have the inspector open. Inspected, draw variables, float, int, vector2, sprite, game object. let's just do an else right here. Right. GameObject.class. Oh crap, we do. So we actually need to pass in the class as well. Do texture. Object. Object O sprite. So this would be texture text equals texture s.get behavior for texture. Texture.class. We're going to pass in text. All right, is that gonna do it? Because I thought we were displaying the names at one point. But maybe not. Play. Drag game object over here. Okay, yeah, we are drawing the names. So there's the game object. Drop a sprite in here. And apparently sprites. Oh, sprite was down here. SP. We just did texture. Bootload. Awesome. Okay, yeah. All right, so if you want to go ahead and add the rest of the asset types, go ahead and do that. We would need to basically, like what I did just a second ago with texture, you basically just copy it, paste it, make the same changes. Here you can change the name if you want. Right there, make sure you put the name right there, and then it would be like font.class or material.class. So if you want, you can go ahead and do that for fonts, font, GUI skin, material, just the other asset types that we have not done yet, except for the only asset types that you're not going to do that for just yet is scenes and yeah, actually I think that's about it, just scenes. Scenes and scripts, because scripts are going to be the same way, but we haven't gotten that far yet. I think we're going to have to do some extra stuff for adding behaviors as an object field, because right now we have it as a I believe right now variables, actually we don't even have that set yet. Yeah, so whenever we get to making variables that are behaviors, we're gonna have to add a few extra little things in there to get it working exactly how we want to. But yeah, I'm gonna add these other asset types off screen, and well, we're gonna call it quits for this episode. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure and add your other asset types. Super simple. And next episode, we may do some audio. Kind of want to do some audio because that's something that I'm definitely going to need for the game tutorial as well, is audio. And that's going to be a 1 episode thing. It's actually going to be really quick. Yeah, so I guess I will see you on the next episode. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a great week.